I'd like to call the Monday, April 7th, 2025 Common Council meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Huffman. Roll call. Clerk Treasurer Parthone.
Councilwoman Huffman.
Present.
Councilwoman Ficus.
Present.
Councilman Galloway.
Here.
Thank you. Councilman Frankie.
Present.
Councilwoman Konechny.
Present.
Councilman Buchanan.
Present.
Councilwoman West.
Here.
All present.
Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Petitions and comments of citizens. I have one individual with 4 topics. Dean, if you could come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Dean White, 3066 Highway 35. And first off, I'd like to give my best wishes for your amendment, Julie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Could I just pass a picture around real quick?
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
If you don't have enough, you can help.
Thank you.
Oh, you don't have one? Okay.
Yes, so the first issue that I have is at a building that I have downtown on Lincoln Way at 1306, and it adjoins to the BP gas station. And for a couple of years now, I've addressed the State Highway Department as a safety issue because it retains water and it actually covers the city sidewalk as well. And when automobiles travel along the roadside there, they splash the water up because the water is being retained there. And I've been told by the state, that when they paved Lincoln Way, they didn't address that elevation that they increased upon. And but there are no curbs there, and there is no sewer there. So that's number one.
Thank you.
Second,
And we'll forward that on
thank
to
you.
our team. And
Thank you. Second issue is there's a safety issue, once again, at the Tsunami Car Wash. They have a single driveway for automobile entrance and exit. It's compounded by a 6-foot-high fence obscurity. The fence is 4 feet in height, but it's set on a 24-inch embankment. I got to give you a picture, I'm sorry.
Mr. White, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this was brought up by the chief of police at the last traffic commission that just, well, it had been last Monday. With that being said, it's on the radar. We're working in conjunction with NDOT to see what the viable options are there.
In regards to the fence?
Both the fencing and the ingress and egress, the way folks come and go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if even if they took the slats out of the cyclone fence, you could at least see the cars coming.
But thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that
That's
this is
good.
being worked on.
I appreciate it. On the other is giving you a visualization. We've had
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
We've had an ongoing issue for years at the intersections of the downtown at the pedestrian crosswalks. And once again, the issue is retention of water. And you figure out how many days out of the year do we have fair weather. In the wintertime, the water freezes and it's ice, and it's not safe at all for people. And I'm just wanting to bring it up again so that something can be done, you know, because it's been that way for quite a few years.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay, and then the last,
And we'll finish it up
oh,
with that time frame. So go ahead about the city park. You have one for city park?
Yeah. Let me just give you a quick picture here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So regarding Soldiers Memorial Park,
Yes, Soldiers Memorial Park. I've gone through the City of LaPorte's Soldiers Memorial Park Master Plan, and I'm realizing on here it says the strengths are the natural resources, waters, woods, and wetlands. The weaknesses are lack of park and facility awareness. Believing that this Vista View would bring out some more awareness of our city park. How many views do you have off of Pine Lake of our city park? None at all. It also says here the guiding principles are preserve and leverage the natural beauty. Connect the spaces because, you know, ideally, you know, we can create trails for canoes and kayaks from one water source to another. But it also says here, strengthen awareness, increase small events for the residents, but also improve, wayfinding and signage. So just more alertness to our visitors or even our own community of the beauty that we have there, especially of that one view of Soldiers Memorial Park wetlands, the Hennessy wetlands, and also you have Stone Lake in the background area. It's a gorgeous view, and I've addressed this with.
I'll ask if we could finish up.
Yes, I'm sorry, but I had
Thank you.
4 things.
I understand.
Okay, so I've addressed the county commissioners and particularly the new commissioner, Steve Hollifield, and he does not believe in tourism. He says he's a farmer. He doesn't travel on vacation, so he doesn't see what Vista views are around our country. Okay, so I believe that creating this view would give us a good opportunity to bring out awareness of our city park and this beautiful view. I mean, it's glistening, but right now it's very important because it's early spring and it's less costly to make this clearing. So I urge everybody to really try to move this along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Standing committee reports. Council President Frankie.
Redevelopment Commission met on March 26. Claims were paid. Jacob and Hefner Associates proposal for an IDEM site letter status and environmental consulting services on a portion of the old Dietrich property in Newport Landing was approved and not to exceed $79,000. The sewer department was given permission to seek quotes on a proposed sewer main extension for the Grand Heritage Credit Union, and those quotes hopefully will be back and reviewed at the next RDC meeting. Landscaping for Truesdale Avenue was approved, not to exceed $25,000 for the year. And additional grant consulting services were approved for Carter and Blue, not to exceed $5,000. This is to update IEDC grant application. The new administration basically switched things up, and so they have to rewrite it. But it should secure us $5 million of grant money. And the next RDC meeting is April 30th, 25. I also heard from Ben Anderson on the Police Commission. They had a hiring event on Saturday, and they had 10 or 11 applications, 6 that passed the physical agility testing, 4 moved on and took the written test, and they believe that there are at least 3, maybe 4 of those that are viable candidates, so they're feeling good about potential hirings for the police department. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Huffman.
Thank you. The Sustainability Commission met on March 25th, 2025 in council chambers. Arbor Day is Friday, April 25th, 2025, and the Sustainability Commission has partnered with the Rotary Club to put on an event at 9 a.m. at Fox Park. The Rotary Club had previously made a generous donation towards the tree fund, and those trees will be planted along the Chessie Trail and Clear Lake Loop, most likely in the fall. They will be planting redwood, dogwood, and native flowering trees. Electric vehicle charging stations were also discussed. The City of LaPorte has several within the city. Most, if not all, need maintenance and software updates. This is being worked on as there are many factors to take into consideration. The next Sustainability Commission meeting will be April 22nd, 2025, in council chambers at 4 p.m.
Councilwoman Ficus.
Park Board met on Wednesday, March 19th. The concert and entertainment purchasing authorization level at the Civic was raised from $10,000 to $40,000. Mark Schreiber and Gregory Peach were specified as the authorized purchasing agents. Increasing this amount will enable the Civic to have a quicker turnaround for booking future entertainment at the Civic. Authorization was also given to solicit quotes for a new lift at the Civic. The repair was estimated at just over $92,000, and the cost of a new lift came in at just over $172,000. The current lift is outdated, and repairing doesn't prevent other problems in the future, so the board agreed to the purchase of a new one. A new play structure will be installed at Hastings Park. Part of the cost will be paid for by the Park Foundation, and the other part will be paid through a generous donation from Big Comedy of LaPorte. The Park Foundation will also fund a pickleball master plan through Planned Environmental Associates. The firm will look at locations, number of courts needed, pickleball trends, et cetera, and will present a plan to the Park Department at a later date. And then Traffic Commission will meet Tuesday, May 6th, 5 p.m. at the police station.
Councilman Galloway.
The Mayor's Veterans Committee met on, March 10th, and they reelected all the officers, the same one stayed in. And they're going to get a new banner for the brick dedication, and we have 26 bricks. June 7th will be the brick dedication, and they're already working on the Veterans Program for November 11th. And April 14th is the next meeting, and that's it. It's 5 o'clock. It's at the Park Department. All right. March 11th was the Police Merit Commission. Callum's president, Anderson vice president, and Chalik secretary. And of course, everybody knows Dragmeister's the chief, Ferguson's the assistant chief, Che Ullman's chief of detectives promoted to captain.
And he's here this evening.
Yes. And they meet tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Councilwoman West.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Councilman Buchanan.
Historic Preservation Commission scheduled to meet Tuesday, April 15th at 5:30 here in council chambers.
Councilwoman Konechny.
In regards to the Airport Authority, aviation camp registration is now open. It's available for 6th through 12th graders. The camp will take place on June 16th through the 20th. Registration does fill up fast, so definitely encourage those that are interested to attend to complete that registration. And the next meeting will be held this Wednesday, April 9th at 5:15 at the airport.
Thank you. Craig Phillips, 2024 Tax Increment Financing Management Report. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. You should have all received a copy of the Redevelopment Commission Annual TIF Report that's going to be submitted via Gateway to the state by April 15th. This is presented to you as required by state statute. I'm not going to go through this verbatim, but I wanted to just look at some of the highlights with you. So every year we present this information. It includes the officers of the city as well as the Redevelopment Commission. On the first page, a basic overall list of expenditures that were made in overall major categories for each TIF on page 2 that are listed there. There were no grant recipients this year listed on page 3 as in years prior. The amount of funds on hand at the end of the calendar year listed on page 4. You can see that we still have healthy amounts in each of those TIF districts left over after the end of the year. The summary of the activities of the Redevelopment Commission listed by each TIF district, so the major projects that were completed in each district are listed there for your information. I'll just go over some highlights. We finished the Clear Lake Loop project, the majority of the Clear Lake Loop project, aside from Holocker Drive. There's some additional improvements that will be made there. We anticipate that being completed. We'll be finishing, we started the completion of that project. We'll be finishing that this year. That's a major project to complete the overall loop. We also did work to develop a downtown alley and redesign and reconstruction plan. That began last June. As you all know, the former Don George property is now open as the Chipotle restaurant, so that work began last year and completed this year with the project opening, obviously, recently. We're introducing some new development in addition to that in Newport Landing in the form of Grand Heritage Credit Union coming soon this year, and the completion of the Pine Lake Dental office also in Newport Landing. We anticipate the development and an agreement was signed with Noah's Landing Arcade Full Tilt for a family fun center in the Newport Landing area. In the Thomas Rose TIF, we received a $2.5 billion grant for a major infrastructure investment program for stormwater infrastructure, including stormwater pipes and the expansion of a major regional stormwater detention facility. We anticipate the work on that beginning this year. We're finalizing the process and paperwork with the Economic Development Administration as we speak for that. And we made a significant investment in the form of additional sanitary and water improvements in what we're calling the Thomas Rose Industrial Park West area. That will help facilitate further development of the Thomas Rose Industrial Park area, as well as connect west to the 39 North TIF district area ultimately, to make those connections and looping of that system so that we have an overall better water pressure and availability of water volume to serve those areas of the city. There were not any significant improvements made within the Eastgate Economic Development area during the calendar year, nor were there any significant investments or projects in the Town Square Economic Development area. And finally, I would note that we established the 39 North Economic Development area, so the 39 North TIF in June, as well as the Boyd Boulevard / Microsoft Economic Development TIF area, also established in June. In addition to the summary, you'll also see some information regarding revenues and expenditures in each of the TIF districts, following on page 5 and page 6. And then overall, the same information is presented every year, the status of each of the TIF districts, when they were established, what type of bonds are outstanding in each of those, the amounts that we paid on each of the TIF districts in the calendar year, and so on. And then I think that wraps up the report. I am happy to answer any questions that you have based on the report that we're planning on submitting.
Will this report be available to the public?
It'll be put on Gateway, which is the state's public information portal. Yes, it will be available to the public through Gateway.
Okay,
There's a link on Gateway to TIF management where all of this is always available.
Yes.
questions from the council? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
As a part of discussing TIF, we thought it'd be a good idea to clarify what TIFs are, tax increment financing, and I've asked Bert Cook to come up and discuss what TIFs are, so we have clarity, and how they work, not only in the city of LaPorte, but the state of Indiana.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening to the City Council. Bert Cook, Executive Director of the LaPorte Economic Advancement Partnership. I think the timing worked well with our TIF report this morning, or this evening. So I want to start by saying, I think TIF is one of the least understood tools that we have in the state of Indiana. As a state, we've made the decision to be a low-cost state in the country, which is a wonderful thing from an economic development perspective, but it also results in less tools than you may see in other states. So here in Indiana, we
Could you-
basically...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you speak up so they can hear in the back, or lift your mic?
Yeah. For the state of Indiana, really, we have two tools that we use: tax abatement and tax increment financing. Tax abatement is the phasing in of real and personal property taxes that you all are, I think that's the most common incentive that we use, so you see that most often. Tax increment financing is a public financing method that uses the increase in property taxes generated by new development within a designated area to fund improvements and redevelopment projects in that area. So the most important thing that you will take away, hopefully, from my discussion today, or our discussion today, is that either of these tools, whether you're talking tax abatement or TIF, you're only impacting new assessed value, right? That's probably the most, or the least understood component of this. Oftentimes, we'll hear people critique the incentive process, and they will say, you're giving away taxes, right? We've all heard that time and time again. Frankly, it's just not accurate, right? You can't give away something you don't currently have. So with either tool, today we're going to talk about TIF, but with either tool, I just stress to you on the council and those that are watching this online that we remember that these incentives are impacting new assessed value. So when I speak on tax increment financing, I often explain it in this way. So when an allocation area, which is the formal name for a TIF district, is set up, a theoretical net is created that captures new assessed value within that district. All of the taxes being paid at this point become part of the base and are not touched. I'll repeat that one more time. All of the taxes that are being paid when the TIF district is set up are part of the base and are not touched. They continue to go to all the other taxing districts. The new increment, or the new taxes that are created within the district, is then used in one of two ways. The first we call pay-as-you-go. So if you think your checking account, the Redevelopment Commission receives funds and then it spends those funds accordingly. They also can use the tool as a means of financing improvements. So this is the route that involves a bond or a loan where they're financing improvements over time. So in scenario one, the pay-as-you-go method, the Redevelopment Commission, which is the body that governs TIF, collects new revenue biannually and spends it on projects in that area. In scenario two, the Redevelopment Commission bonds based on future revenues and finances improvements within that area. Notable projects that most of you will remember that we've used this scenario or this method on, the Newport Landing environmental cleanup, the Thomas Rose Industrial Park when we built the infrastructure there in 2016. Within that scenario, there's also another option where developers purchase their own bonds and they support their debt with the newly created increment. This option places the liability on the developer and has little risk to the city or the RDC. It is, however, often misunderstood by the public and often mistaken for RDC acquired debt. So again, that's a difference an intricacy that maybe is not always picked up upon. So put some other notable information or facts about TIF, just to share. Typically, TIF is used to finance infrastructure projects, water, wastewater, roads, et cetera. TIF districts live for a period of 25 years. Property tax associated with the land at the time the TIF is formed is called the base, and those dollars continue to go to those taxing units. In LaPorte, our TIF districts collect only real property taxes. You can also collect personal property taxes. I would guess that throughout the state, about 40% or so actually collect both real and personal property taxes, but we do not do that here in LaPorte. It is only real property taxes that are collected. Most TIF districts are only able to fund projects in that district. However, in LaPorte, all of our districts are connected, thus allowing them to share resources with one another. You can also make an argument that projects potentially support a TIF district, and so you could fund a project outside if it has a direct impact or a support for the district itself. LaPorte's TIF collections in 2024, we collected $3,229,430, and our outstanding obligations during that same year were $1,898,600. Again, you may hear things out there that suggest the opposite of that, but I think the coverage ratio on that debt is excellent, 170% or more. So here's an easy hypothetical example of how a typical TIF project might work. Company ABC is interested in building a new facility in an allocation area. They'll build a new building that will generate $100 in new property taxes that will be captured within the TIF. In order to build the new building, they need a public road extended in order to be able to access their property. If the RDC has monies available, they can pay to have the road extended. If they don't have resources on hand, they can bond to finance this road improvement and use the $100 in new taxes to service this debt over time. Tax increment financing is most often discussed as a tool to incentivize developers. We talk about that in that sense the majority of the time. However, it's also a tool to support local government. Many communities, LaPorte being one, struggle with significant tax cap losses. In LaPorte, over 30% of our revenue is lost due to tax caps. As homeowners, we all appreciate that because that's the savings we appreciate. But it also creates challenges to funding local government services. Each year, Baker Tilly provides and files an annual TIF report to and on behalf of our RDC. In their most recent report, they provided a very enlightening example of the value tax increment financing creates within our community. $16 million of assessed value in TIF 1 generates approximately $400,000 in increment captured within the TIF and spent by the RDC each year. If we were to remove that $16 million of assessed value from that allocation area and return it to the general tax base, due to tax cap losses, it would result in only $14,000 of real tax dollars. So there's a huge discrepancy between those two, and hopefully that's fairly clear, but the RDC brings in $400,000 as we stand right now. If that assessed value was not captured within the TIF, it would only result in $14,000 to our city. It's a perfect example of how TIF is a tool for development, but it also benefits the city of LaPorte. At its most basic level, both TIF and tax abatement result in property tax savings to companies. What percentage is saved versus paid is determined by the negotiation and the manner in which the tool is used. Recently, I was asked to critique another community's incentive package on a new project. I refuse to ever do this because I'm not privy to the internal directives, the strategies, the tactics, and the motivations of other communities. Thus, it's just not fair to try and evaluate those decisions without all of the information. All of that said, I fully embrace that the role of an economic development professional is one that will always garner criticism. Negotiating incentive packages is a challenging profession. Of course, we don't want to give away too much, but we also don't want to lose out on projects. In either case, people will second-guess the outcomes and criticize accordingly. I'm not immune to that criticism. Have we given away too much on some deals over the last 18 years? Likely we have. Overall, though, I believe our track record speaks for itself. It's incredibly easy to sit in the cheap seats and second-guess these decisions. Anyone who is involved in the attraction of new business knows how difficult it is to land new projects. Every community is utilizing similar tools to induce development. We have to be strategic in what types of companies we look for, but we also have to best utilize the tools that we have. And TIF is a premier one of those tools. Happy to answer questions you have about tax increment financing or anything else.
Mr. Cook, thank you. Questions from the council?
I just have a quick comment and perhaps a question that I think this is excellent. It's very complex stuff, and it is sometimes hard to understand and even hard to explain sometimes, so thank you for taking the time to do that for everybody. One of the arguments that you hear quite a bit, and I think misguided arguments, is that it robs schools of funding, but you reiterated that a couple times, that the base is still there. What they've been paying for 20 years still goes to the school and TIF districts.
Correct. To your first point, you know, as I prepared some thoughts for this, it's very difficult. You are right. I could stand here and talk for hours on the topic because there's so many intricacies, and it's you know, it is a complex tool and process, right? So I've oversimplified some things, like granted, right, in order to make our discussion efficient. So I put down some questions. I assumed I would get good questions, but I put down some in case that I didn't, and that's the first one, because that's probably the most common argument you have against TIF, is that it's pulling money from schools and libraries and all the other taxing units. You're exactly right, and I'll say it one more time. It's not taking away dollars that they're currently getting. On top of that, what actually occurs is your assessed value builds over time. So when that TIF district expires, everyone, all of the taxing units benefit from that, right? That's a bigger pie from everyone to pull from. Oftentimes when you have the discussion with schools, can you imagine how incredibly difficult it would be if we didn't have the tool? And we all agree that new development needs to occur in our community. We need more jobs. We need, you know, companies to open and create jobs. We need more residential development. But it always costs. This body sees it as much as any. It always costs in order to see those projects to fruition. Can you imagine how difficult it would be if every time we needed to build a new road or put in a new water line, we went to the school corporation and we said, your portion of this bill is $3 million, right? That would be impossible, and you can't budget for that, you can't plan for that. And so this is the mechanism by which we have to assist with that process. And then ultimately, we all benefit from the growth in those areas. Craig mentioned it, you have the report. Some of you have sat on the Redevelopment Commission previously, and you see a more detailed report each and every year. I think you would recognize that we've had great success with this tool, that our TIF districts have grown over time significantly, and when they expire, which they will, we will all be better off for it because our community will have grown significantly by utilizing that tool.
Other comments, questions?
I think the main point I consider whenever we give an abatement is if we don't, these companies are going to go to the next town over that is going to, and you know, it's sure maybe the school isn't getting that exact money from that project at the moment, but they're going to bring in jobs, which will bring in more taxes and hopefully bring people into town to live. So it has a balloon effect from it.
You will hear, I mean, we all hear it, I hear it as well. You oftentimes, you know, you didn't need to incentivize this project. Why are we giving out? That's typically, and I'm not trying to insult anyone, but it typically comes from someone who has never had any involvement in that process whatsoever. There is a whole cottage industry of professionals that get paid lots of money to help companies find the most, the best locations for them. And when I say best, I mean that a lot of different perspectives. Real estate, but without a doubt, the financial best location, right? And Councilman Frankie, you're exactly right. Every community is using these tools. Now, we need to be strategic in how we use the tools. You can't just, kind of offer everything on every project, or I think you will run into issues over time. But you are absolutely kidding yourself if you don't believe that every project we've landed, every project we look at has multiple suitors from our state, from other states across the world. That's the world around us these days. And so you have to utilize these tools. It's often easy for us to sit on one side and say, well, these companies should, they should locate here because we're a great community. Absolutely we are. But as consumers, do we do that often? When we go buy a new vehicle, do we typically say, I'm going to pay a little bit more to go over here? I mean, it doesn't happen often, right? We're all motivated by cost, and there's a responsibility there to make good decisions for these companies, and they're run by people as well. So these tools, or the inducements that we use, I think help them make that decision. They also help communicate the partnership that typically exists between our local government and the private industry that makes up our business community.
Further comment? Thank you, Mr. Cook.
You're welcome.
Introduction of a resolution.
And there were no comments online.
Perfect. Councilman Buchanan.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce a resolution read in its entirety for the first and only time.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution to write off insufficient funds check from Kelly Roofing and More LLC. Whereas the City of LaPorte has made every effort to collect the balance of insufficient check number 1014 written to the City of LaPorte by Kelly Roofing and More LLC of 434 Hendrick Street, Michigan City, Indiana 46360 on October 10th, 2021, and signed by Lacey Kelly for $50 for a roofing permit for 1006 Greenway Street, LaPorte, Indiana 46350. And whereas the City of LaPorte has worked with the LaPorte County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, Bad Check Division, extensively with no success in collection from signer of the check, Lacey Kelly. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Common Council of the City of LaPorte, LaPorte, Indiana, hereby authorizes the write-off as summarized below for payment of a roofing permit for 1006 Greenway Street, LaPorte, Indiana 46350. Fund general reduced by $50. End of resolution.
Clerk Treasurer Barthone.
I think that resolution was pretty self-explanatory. I attached all of the detail of the time and energy spent on collecting $50 for a non-sufficient funds check since 2021. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help, or I'm happy to answer them. We need to get this, this is what we're statutorily required to do to get this adjustment off of our books. Happy to answer anything if you've got anything.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So I do have a motion and a second on this resolution. Further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Councilwoman Ficus, introduction of a resolution.
Your Honor, I move to introduce a resolution read for the first and only time in its entirety.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Ficus.
Resolution to make a bank reconcilement adjustment. Whereas the City of LaPorte has made every effort to locate the variances in said bank account. Whereas the variances have been consistent and have not changed. Whereas the City of LaPorte has exhausted all efforts to find the variances with each bank reconciliation and per State Board of Accounts, as the variances have been consistent since 2023 and 2024 respectively, we're asking council approval for a one-time adjustment in order to bring our bank reconcilement and accounting into agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of LaPorte, LaPorte, Indiana, hereby authorizes the one-time adjustment for the following variances. Bank account, City of LaPorte, Civil City account. The next four are all from the general fund. Date of variance on the first one, March 2023, adjusted by negative $25. April of 2023 is the date of the variance, adjusted by $99.80. June 2023, adjusted by negative $7.25. October of 2023, adjusted by $3.99 for a total of $71.54. Bank account, City of LaPorte, credit card clearing account. These are both from the credit card clearing fund. Date of variance on the first one, May 2023, adjusted by 1 cent. September 2024, adjusted by $55 for a total of $55.01. End of resolution.
Clerk Treasurer Parthone.
Sure. So as you can see, we, all of our credit card batches, I guess, transactions, used to go into the Civil City account. The Civil City account is a sometimes $25 million checking account. Very interesting to reconcile. And as council knows, usually it's reconciled to the penny. In 2023, we created a credit card clearing account. The volume of credit card transactions since the Civic became more of an event center and the parks were doing more, it just made more sense for us to have a credit card clearing account. In that transition, there were probably receipts that were duplicated or receipts that were not receipted at all. 6 transactions over the course of that time period I'm still pretty proud of. Although statutorily we're required to ask council for a one-time adjustment for a total of $71.54 for the general fund and $55.01 for the credit card clearing fund. Also worked with State Board of Accounts on this to find best case scenario or best practice on what we need to do. These variances stayed the same since the date of the onset. So State Board of Accounts is comfortable with us asking for a one-time adjustment. I'm comfortable with us asking for a one-time adjustment. The theme of tonight is clearing up the adjustments, if you can't tell. So asking a council for the adjustments on each of these, asking for approval.
This is a resolution, can pass this evening. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Councilwoman, I'm sorry, Council President Frankie, introduction of a resolution.
Your Honor, I move to read a resolution for its first time in entirety.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Council President Frankie.
A resolution declaring Fund 4417 2021 RDC remediation bond proceeds dormant and transferred. Whereas the City of LaPorte, LaPorte County, Indiana, finds that the purposes for which Fund 4417 2021 RDC remediation bond proceeds was created has been fulfilled, and whereas the monies collected into these funds have not been appropriated and the funds have become dormant, and whereas the Common Council of the City of LaPorte is authorized to transfer these unused and unencumbered funds into Fund 4445, Redevelopment TIF 1. Now therefore let it be resolved, the Common Council of the City of LaPorte, LaPorte County, Indiana hereby declares Fund 4417 2021 RDC remediation bond proceeds to be dormant and authorizes the clerk treasurer to transfer the remaining balance into Fund 4445, Redevelopment TIF 1, to pay toward the debt service. Fund 4417 2021 RDC remediation bond proceeds, $62,208.31. Close the dormant fund and repeal any ordinances establishing the fund. This resolution shall be in full force and effective immediately upon adoption. All acts necessary to carry out this resolution are hereby ratified. End of resolution.
Clerk Treasurer Parthone.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory as well. We had $62,208.31 left in the Fund 4417, which was a bond proceeds fund, which means we were able to spend on the remediation of Newport Landing out of that fund. We're done. So we're going to put those funds with council approval back into 4445, which is where we pay the debt service on that bond. So we're putting extra money back into the debt service to pay the bond payment, which is where it should go.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Councilwoman Konechny.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce the resolution read for its first and only time in its entirety.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Konechny.
A resolution declaring Fund 4413, 2020 GO 2012, refunding bond proceeds, dormant and transferred. Whereas the City of LaPorte, LaPorte County, Indiana, finds that the purposes for which Fund 4413, 2020 GO 2012, refunding bond proceeds, was created and has been fulfilled. And whereas the monies collected into these funds have not been appropriated and the funds have become dormant. And whereas the Common Council of the City of LaPorte is authorized to transfer these unused and unencumbered funds into Fund 3307, 2020 GO Refunding Bonds 2012 Debt Service Fund. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, the Common Council of the City of LaPorte, LaPorte County, Indiana, hereby declares Fund 4413, 2020 GO 2012 Refunding Bond proceeds to be dormant and authorizes the clerk treasurer to transfer the remaining funds into Fund 3307, 2020 GO Refunding Bonds 2012 Debt Service Fund. Fund 4413, 2020 GO 2012 Refunding Bond proceeds, $8,309.58. Close the dormant fund and repeal any ordinances establishing the fund. This resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption. All acts necessary to carry out this resolution are hereby ratified.
Clerk Treasurer Barthone.
Same as the last resolution, we're just cleaning up, the council will be happy to read the fund report, that's 2 funds less this next time we reconcile. Putting bond proceeds, funds that we will not spend anymore, back into the debt service fund to pay debt on this fund, and there will no longer be a Fund 4413.
Motion to approve.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, resolution passes. Councilman Galloway.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce a resolution read for the first and only time.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilman Galloway.
Resolution to transfer funds within the 2025 budgets. Whereas there are additional monies needed in certain line items in the 2025 budgets in order to pay for essential services and obligations. Now therefore be it and is hereby resolved by the Common Council of the City of LaPorte, Indiana, that the following transfers be made within the following budgets for year 2025. General Board of Works, 1101-077, from 351 Utilities to 341 Workers' Compensation, $7,018. From 351 Utilities to 342 Liability Insurance, $17,955. Transit, 2510-304, from 501 Salaries to 506 Workers' Compensation Liability Insurance, $5,071. Business Improvement District, 2511-701, from 361 Repairs Maintenance to 341 Liability Insurance, $706. ARP Coronavirus Local, from 2401-000-315 Truesdale Clear Lake to 2401-803-375 Winterfest Ice Rink, $15,966. Seated, 2209-103, from 391 Other Services to 361 Repairs Maintenance, $237.81. That's it.
Good job, Roger.
Clerk Treasurer Barthone.
So as council knows, budgets are just estimates, so we're just cleaning things up along the way. Liability insurance this year, probably all the residents can agree, insurance costs have gone up. We're shifting some money in several appropriations to pay for our liability insurance. Workers' compensation, same thing. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We take requests from department heads as well, so as projects shift, we ask council for approval for transfers.
And that liability can include trees that have fallen during a storm, pothole.
Damage to any
damage
of
to
our
cars.
buildings, our vehicles, auto, yep.
So this is a resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Other business. Council President Frankie.
Yeah, I just want to speak on the last item that Mr. White had brought up regarding his vision of the Vista view at Pine Lake Ave and Holton. I've been out there and met with him. I know several of you have as well. And Dean and I have talked at length for 2-3 years now on this, trying to make it happen. Erosion, I think, is the biggest issue. Next issue being, and we do have a plan for that, but it's a weird plot of land, and the county actually owns a good chunk of that land. We have a smaller portion, certainly, and so I've worked with Nick Minnick, our city engineer, on trying to come up with a plan to make that happen, but ultimately, it doesn't make sense for the city to foot the bill on all of it, nor do we have the resources in terms of employees to manage it all on our own. So we asked the county to partner on this project, and that hasn't gone anywhere. I think, the city's interests would probably still be there, but we need the county's participation on that. And we seemed like we had some traction going for a while, but never came to fruition. But Mr. White did fill me in on a couple of the county environmental folks having grant money for erosion and game plan, but they're waiting on direction to use that. So I think ultimately we're dependent upon the county.
Other comments? I think the main part of what we're also focused on right now is in the General Assembly in Indiana, what property tax reductions they are looking at and the governor's looking at. That was supposed to be their focus. It seems they've moved beyond that focus into business personal property tax and eliminating that tax for big business of all type. But I hope they get back to looking at property tax reform, true property tax reform for especially seniors, veterans, and that group of individuals, so that we can continue to still supply and provide services that are necessary to keep our community safe. Because again, during 2008, when we had a real property tax crisis, it was addressed, and let's see what they do now moving into the last 3 weeks of session. So with that, do I have another motion?
Yeah, motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are